should be brief. There is 45 minutes of question times. Councillor Dimoldenberg, would you like to ask your 3 questions now, please?
To the dear leader of the council, following the scrapping of the proposed West End evening and Sunday parking charges and the admission that the council got it badly wrong, will he say sorry to West End residents, churches, businesses and their staff for the trouble, uncertainty, worry and expense of having to oppose such an overwhelmingly unpopular proposal?
Lord Mayor, last time I looked, Councillor Dimoldenberg was a middle-aged man, and therefore I think I can get away with saying, "Calm down, dear." Mock horror is the standard ploy of an opposition politician, and he has deployed it expertly over recent weeks. And it's, I think, time to take his own advice and put the parking arguments behind us and move on. After all, this is about a policy difference. It's not about the end of civilization as we know. This parking policy was scarcely a surprise. It was trailed before the last election, and it went through the entire council scrutiny process, including part of which upon which Councillor Dimoldenberg himself sat, and where he assented to the proposals. As a solution to congestion and to make traffic easier, it would undoubtedly have worked. And that all comes at a cost. And I think that is the bit that we have been made forcibly aware of. And the cost is the cost to the wider economy, a factor which by law we're not supposed to be taking into account when considering traffic management. So we have taken it into account. There are some people who are quite specifically affected by this, and we know about that, and that was part of the picture. But what we have now done is referred the whole matter to a previously created West End Commission to look at the West End in the round, traffic, transport, free parking, nighttime economy, daytime economy, the hours of working of transport, the whole thing, and see if we can't come up with a solution that supports the economy better than this policy would have done. So no is the answer to the question. We took the policy on the basis of good research, but of a narrow brief, and we've now taken the further decision to consider the West End as a whole, which is the right thing to do.
Lord Mayor, I'm disappointed that he hasn't taken the opportunity to say the sorry word. I'd like to say, think about it, apart from Mr. Justice Collins and David Cameron, isn't it a fact that the council has in reality listened to nobody else? And the only reason that the council has scrapped the West End parking charges is because of the damage it was doing to the Conservatives' mayoral election hopes.
Frankly, I don't think that the mayoral election is relevant. I tell you what, not in this case. I tell you why. Because Boris Johnson was against the policy in the first place, so it's not a matter for him. And we will take no lessons from the person who introduced the congestion charge.
Lord Mayor, second question to the soon to be not the leader of the council. Why did it take him and his cabinet colleagues so long to acknowledge the overwhelming opposition to the West End parking charges? Why didn't they listen earlier to West End residents, churches, theatres, residents and people working in the West End? Why was the council so arrogant that it would not even listen to the Conservative mayor, to Conservative cabinet ministers, to Conservative members of Parliament, and even to his own Conservative backbenchers?
I think I've answered that question. which is that we were undertaking a policy which we knew was going to be unpopular, but the popularity of the policy was not that which we were trying to achieve. What we were trying to achieve was the best thing for the West End, and we believe that it is better for the West End to ease congestion, and it is better for the West End to get the traffic moving. It is also a cost to the West End, I've just said that, and therefore we're saying that we need to understand exactly that cost. There were a very large number of people who were ranged against this policy, but there were equally a large number of people who were in favour of it. Some of our residents' associations were, some businesses were, and those businesses said, we believe that the people who we want to attract can afford to park in the city of Westminster, and we don't mind that we are in a city where there are the cost of parking, we can get the thing turned over. So there was a reasoning for the policy, but we have now moved forward and we've said we want to take the wider policy, the wider view. And since you were kind enough to mention about to be ex-leader of the council, Councillor Dimoldenberg, Lord Mayor, and I don't share much in politics, but we're about to share something quite important, which is that we're not very important. And the people who are important are all of the backbenchers that you alluded to, and you are so keen on all of a sudden. All of the people who are actually running the city and doing their very best in public service to make the city a better place to be. And I salute them for what they have done and what they're about to do.
Councillor Barrow is clearly still in denial. So I want to ask him, has he learnt anything from this humiliating episode? Would he have done anything differently? Or is the council and himself the innocent victim of a dastardly plot hatched by the Evening Standard, the churches, the casinos, the restaurants, the actors, and, God forbid, the Labour Party?
I think the Labour Party was involved there somewhere, and I think the Evening Standard was involved there somewhere. There was a newspaper, I think, whose motto it was, all the news that's fit to print. And I think the Evening Standard could well adopt the same principle. There was a great deal of misinformation and a great deal of stretching of the truth done in the public work done by the press at that time, and that was ably egged on by the Labour Party. Is this a conspiracy? No, this is free journalism, and this is free politics. This is fine. But I think what I personally would learn is that I think that that councils should be mandated to look after their entire economy and not just the narrow traffic management grounds of the Traffic Management Act it is 2004. We should take on the whole economy, and we should be permitted and indeed encouraged to do so, as says David Cameron, as says Boris Johnson, and as very much do I, and that's what the West End Commission is there to do, and that is why we will be moving forward in that direction.
Third question, Lord Mayor, to the bookies' favourites, Councillor Ed Argar. Sorry, Leonard. The great successor. To Ed, it's a great name for a leader. On the 1st of August 2011, when he spoke in favour of and voted for the West End parking charges, was he aware that the proposals would mean the loss of over 8,400 parking spaces on single yellow lines? And is he not surprised that this information was not provided to the Cabinet member or the public by the Cabinet member for parking or chief officers? When he is leader, will he mount an inquiry into this failure to provide councillors and the public with the full information on which to make a decision?
If there's one thing I've learned in politics, it's not to answer hypothetical questions or to predict the future or to gainsay the votes of my colleagues or anyone else.
Supplementary, Lord Mayor. evading the question is not the right way to start your election campaign. I remind Councillor Argar that the Evening Standard is in the gallery, so I will ask again. When he spoke in favour and voted for the West End parking proposal, was he aware that these proposals would mean the loss of over 8,400 parking spaces on single yellow lines? And will he mount an inquiry into why this key and vital information was not provided to members? Let's hear it, Ed.
The Leader of the Opposition asked a number of questions there. Firstly, in respect of the decision made on the 1st of August. The information to which he alludes was, if my recollection is correct, at 6 months' notice, available in the background papers for those who read them carefully and extrapolated from them. Secondly, I've made clear that I will not predict the future or promise anything in an arrogant fashion before I know whether or not I or any one of the other very able candidates has been elected as leader of the Conservative group.
Yeah, well done.
I now call to order... Oh, I've gone over 2 pages. That's no good. No, this one first. Oh, no. Okay. I now call to order the first of the extraordinary council meetings. I call Councillor Paul Dimoldenberg to move the motion.
Lord Mayor, I'd like to move the motion and I'd like to accept the amendment tabled by Councillor Rowley and seconded by Councillor Kaplan in the interest of moving on.
Are you going to retire as well?
No, I'm not going to retire. And Councillor Rowley, I have another speech. You look forward to it. You've probably heard some of the points before, but it's just putting them in a different order. Yeah. Well, for the past 6 months, the council has seen it lose the trust, respect, and confidence of West End residents, businesses, churches, theatres, people working in the West End. The council has taken the very first step in winning back that trust by admitting that the parking proposals were wrong, but much more has to be done, and I'd like to make a few suggestions as to how that might be done. First, the council has to say sorry, and it is a huge disappointment that Councillor Barrow did not take that opportunity a few hours ago. It may be hard for the Conservative group to say the sorry word, but it's essential for someone here tonight to step forward and apologise on behalf of the council for the misery, concern, expense and worry that so many people have been put to in fighting these proposals. And given that the council wants people to participate willingly and positively in the West End Commission, then a display of humility, I say, is essential. Second, given that the opposition to these proposals has come from an unprecedented coalition of interests, churches and casinos, trade unions and company chief executives, politicians of all political persuasions, there must be an inquiry as to how the council's systems and processes were unable to respond in a sensible and common sense way. How could the council have been so deaf to this obvious chorus of anger and concern? So I ask, are changes necessary to the council's policy making and consultation procedures? How can the council ensure that there is never ever again a repeat of this damaging and totally wasteful episode? One example, I still cannot believe how these proposals came forward without giving councillors and the public the basic fact that 8,400 parking spaces would be lost in the West End if the plans went through. Councillor Rowley says that they were hidden away in an appendix somewhere on a website or somewhere. They were hidden away so well that not even Mr. Lowe or Ms. McQueen could find them. They had to work them out again, and they got it wrong. We need an itemised breakdown of the cost to council taxpayers of this failed policy. I stand by my estimate of £1 million because it includes all the time of the many senior, highly paid colleagues of working for the council involved for the past 6 months in trying to defend the policy from the relentless tide of opposition. Third, the decision to paint double yellow lines on 5 miles of West End roads in defiance of the High Court order has been a deeply provocative act by the council. As I've said on many occasions, the decision, everybody supports double yellow lines at drop curbs. We've been arguing it for 3 years. However, the decision to extend the double yellow lines a further 10 metres for safety reasons has provoked real anger, particularly as the council's own figures show that 37% of the junctions where double yellow lines have been installed have paid for parking within 10 metres of the curb. So it's okay to put the meters, to put the double yellow lines there when there are no paid for parking, but somehow, miraculously, those double yellow lines can't go where they would replace somewhere where people pay £4.80 an hour. Lord Mayor, there needs to be a full review of the decision to install the 5 miles of double yellow lines, and that needs to be done. And finally, the West End Commission needs to be open, transparent, inclusive, with no hidden agendas. We would welcome the opportunity to see a draft of the terms of reference and the membership of the Commission. If you intend to just announce the Commission, announce the terms of reference and say take it or leave it, then you will be making another huge mistake by alienating people. So I urge you to take this opportunity, say you're sorry, act with a bit of humility, take the words of Clement Attlee seriously. A period of silence on your part would be welcome on this matter. Let us move on, work together, and make sure that this fiasco never ever happens again. Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm deeply grateful.
How deep, Paul? Is there a seconder?
I'll second the amended motion, because I am glad that Councillor Dimoldenberg and his group will vote for the amended motion tonight, and I look forward, therefore, to many other opportunities for us to come together and agree on parking what we need to do for this city, because I think if there is one thing that has been shown over the past 24 months nearly, while we've been discussing and debating the proposal or its origin, which Paul sat in and oversaw in 6 separate meetings through the task group which Councillor Bradley set up as part of his Policy and Scrutiny Committee, is that cities have congestion problems. Now, what I've not heard from Paul in a whole multitude of press releases over the last 6 months, in a whole multitude of glib comments on the radio or in the press, is what his party actually proposes to do about congestion in the very busiest part of the busiest city. Because we put forward 9 proposals which we hoped would improve this city over the long term. We've now withdrawn 2 of them, and I recognise that you welcome that, and I recognise also that a large number of other people welcome that. Now that's grown-up politics. That is saying, we think this is a solution, we think that this may help, we think we'll introduce it on an experimental basis to see whether it helps or not. And then, having listened, and you called for us to listen, having listened and withdrawn those 2 proposals, and are happy to look at other alternative ways to do that, I call that grown-up politics. I call that listening. Now, Paul talks about the double yellow lines, and I challenge him here tonight to stop repeating the lie that this is in defiance of a High Court order. It is not. He knows it is not. We know it is not. And I ask him not to do it again. The point about double yellow lines, I welcome the fact that you agree that we should have double yellow lines in parts of this city. I welcome the fact that you recognise road markings need to be clear. And on 2 separate occasions, you put out one of your ubiquitous press releases which called for these. Now, we have done that. And there are still, Paul, there are still junctions in the West End where there are single yellow lines within 10 metres. And it is this attempt to sort of revise history in terms of, with regards to the policies, which Paul is very good at, and which others through the echo chamber are now picking up on. But it doesn't reflect the reality. We will reduce the number of tickets which we issue in the parking department as a result of these road markings being made clearer. We have won the support of disabled charities such as Mobilise UK, such as the Westminster Older People Action Network, for actually going out and making the road markings clearer and allowing people to cross the road. I hoped you would have welcomed that. No, Barbara, not now. I hoped you would have welcomed that, and I'm sorry that you have chosen not to. But if I can end on just one positive, I am glad that you welcome the West End Commission. The reasons we haven't put a terms of reference out yet is because there is still a consultation underway about the West End Commission, and also because we want to set those terms in public. We look forward to doing so. We look forward to bringing people in who have knowledge and background and interest in this area, and working out what we can do about parking in the future. Because the fundamental point here, and the fundamental point which has been missed in all of this debate, is we may have withdrawn 2 proposals. We can't withdraw the problem. And that problem is there are lots and lots and lots of vehicles trying to park in a very small part of the city. And it does cause problems over the long term for residents, businesses and visitors. And that's what we tried at the very beginning, and we will continue to try to solve as a result of the things which we were proposing. Thank you.
I was just about to say, are there any other speakers? Is there a seconder?
Yes.
We need to put that to the vote straight away.
Okay, shall we put that to the vote?
Yep.
Straight away.
We need to ask who's in favour of the question now being put.
Okay. Who's in favour of the question that is now being put? Goodbye.
Against.
Against? Anybody against? Okay, that's carried.
carried.
Thank you.
Councillor Dimoldenberg has a right to reply if he wants.
Okay. Yeah. Hang on a minute. We need to vote on the motion.
No, Councillor Dimoldenberg
No.
has a right to reply if he wants.
Councillor Dimoldenberg, would you have a right to reply?
Waive my right to reply.
Where's that? Okay. Can we now vote on the motion amended? Yep.
Those in favour?
Yep. Those in favour? Those against? No, that's good. Okay. Wow. Okay. I now call to order the second extraordinary council meeting.
Motion.
Thank you. I therefore close the meeting. Thank you and good night.